Jim, the graph has been going one way for quite some time in terms of new car sales. If it continues on that trajectory, where will we be in 2020?
Well, it's been a challenging environment for new car sales. The market peaked in 2016, and since then we've seen a decline of over 21% in new car sales, and over the same period we've seen an increase of 38% in used imports. Looking at the market in 2019, I mean, there are a lot of uncertainties out there. The Irish consumer is still very reticent about spending money, and seeking value for money is the name of the game. We've seen a surge in UK imports on the back of sterling weakness. There's massive uncertainty about the impact that Brexit might have on the Irish economy and consequently on consumer spending power. And I suppose the other issue surrounds Budget 2020 and what the government might or might not do.
Well, let's look, for example, at the manner in which the government, or the manner in which VRT is being applied to cars. It's changed. The government don't seem to be, in tandem with those changes. If they don't do something, there's trouble ahead.
Well, the government is obliged to introduce the European emission standards WLTP on the 1st of January next year. And if it does not adjust VRT bands to take account of the new emission standards, the average price of a new car here could go up by at least $2,500. That sort of price increase would have a devastating impact on new car sales. And I could certainly see the market going from over 115,000 this year to around 75,000 next year. So the imperative for government is to adjust the VRT bands to make sure we do not see anything like that sort of price increase for new cars.
Is it your view that there's an appetite on the part of the government to take on board those changes, and in not doing so, understanding what the negative impact will be on the car?
Well, I think the recently published tax strategy group papers made a number of suggestions about what might be done with VRT bands to take account of WLTP. It would still result in some increase in new car prices, but there are no guarantees that the government will actually implement that. I think it's vital they do, because if they don't, you will see a lot of job losses and a lot of businesses going out in the car sector.
Let's talk about 2020, post-Brexit, consumer confidence, consumer spending, all presumably will be impacted in some shape or form, which will trickle down to the car dealers in 2020. What's the worst possible outcome for car dealers?
Well, I think the worst possible outcome would be, number one, a disorderly Brexit. In other words, Britain leaves without doing a trade deal with the European Union. That would have a devastating impact on the Irish economy in 2020, and particularly the rural and regional economies, where car dealers are a very important part of the fabric. The second issue then, of course, is if the government does not adjust VRT bands, and if we do see a significant increase in car prices, a combination of those two factors could take the market to 75,000 or lower. And the last time we saw that sort of decline in the car market was back in 2007, 2008, and that had a devastating impact. And many of the businesses that managed to survive that crash are barely hanging on at the moment. So I think another shock of that magnitude would be very, very serious for the new car industry.
We're talking 40,000 plus employees in the business in this country. Do you see that figure deteriorating, dropping in 2020 if we see things unfold as we anticipate they will for the car sector?
Well, in the event of those negative scenarios unfolding, you could certainly see at least 25% of the jobs in the sector going within 12 months. I think the industry is on that sort of a cliff edge at the moment, and I think government has got to recognise just the seriousness of the situation at the moment and the vulnerability of the whole sector.